Are you ready? It's time to laugh, to win, and to live the thrill of the action.
Hey, baby, let's go out there like a bunch of crazy dogs. What the hell's going on out here?
No idea what's going on, but I am excited.
Every pick, every play, every game-changing moment.
Unbelievable!
This is You Better You Bet, brought to you by BetMGM on Westwood One Sports.
And it's a great day to be alive on Westwood One Sports. Happy Friday to everyone listening all across North America, whether you're on your old school radio, stuck in the car on the way to work right now, whether you're locked up in a cubicle for the next 8 hours, whether you're listening inside that Westwood One Sports app or your Audacy app or across North America on Sirius XM Channel 375. Welcome in to a fabulous Friday edition of You Better You Bet, presented by BetMGM. Chris Mack in for Nick Kostos today here on Westwood One Sports. And as per the usual, there is never a slow day in the NFL. We will talk about a signing, a possible signing. Somebody headed back to where we thought he would go, but it was up in the air. Officiating, all of it is on the table today in the world of the NFL. The NBA playoffs, some people got whooped and still got mad about it. We'll talk Lakers and OKC. We'll talk Pistons and Cavs. Plus, tonight you got Knicks, Sixers. You got Spurs, T-Wolves. Nick Friedell is going to join us in the final hour of the show. The expansion of the NCAA tournament to a gajillion teams. I'm not even going to reference the actual number. It just disgusts me. We'll talk about that. And why, I'm going to sound like a hypocrite, but why I don't hate the expansion of the CFP to 24 teams like I do the expansion of the NCAA basketball tournament. Judy Battista of NFL Network going to join us very early in the show, in like 20 minutes from now, to talk about all of those NFL storylines I mentioned. And one of the biggest storylines, obviously, Aaron Rodgers. Headed back to Pittsburgh, he said with a hint of a question mark at the end of that statement, who would know better, aside from Aaron Rodgers, than Steelers general manager Omar Khan? He will join us on today's edition of You Better You Bet, a little more than 90 minutes from now, right around 10:40 a.m. Eastern. We'll get word directly from the man who would know if Aaron Rodgers is going to be in Pittsburgh this weekend to sign a contract for 2026 or not, and maybe ask him what the heck's taken so long. Because Steeler fans have been incredibly frustrated by that. A lot to get to. Both Philly teams could possibly be swept out of the playoffs as the Flyers went down to the Hurricanes last night, and as mentioned a moment ago, the Sixers trying to avoid going down 3-0 to the Knicks. A lot to get to. And I didn't even mention the words Vrabel or Rossini, but we will get into that as well. But as I like to do every single day that I'm in for Nick, and you can jump into the comments, don't forget, youtube.com/@thekostos, TheKostos, to watch the stream live and comment there, or jump on the phones at 310-840-4910. 310-840-4910. As I like to do every day, start the day with the biggest stories right off the top. It's called the High Five.
5.
Jenkins over to Cunningham. Back to Jenkins. 3-ball. Boom!
Michael Grady on Prime last night. Dennis Jenkins with the third quarter buzzer beater 3 to put the Pistons up by 4 at that point in game 2. They go on to win against Cleveland. Now up 2-0 in the series, and it feels like they're in firm control because the Cavs haven't been able to avoid the mistakes that they were able to avoid maybe just 4 times against Toronto, but they were able to avoid 4 times against Toronto. And those mistakes are what are killing them. Now, granted, the Pistons turned the ball over more than the Cavs last night. But the Pistons actually did more damage in points off turnovers than Cleveland did, despite turning the ball over more. And the key here in the second round, the key in the first round of the playoffs was big men in defense. The key in the second round so far, the conference semifinals of the NBA playoffs, appears to be limit turnover damage and hit your threes, kids. I know, it's not quite as catchy as train hard, say your prayers, eat your vitamins, brother. But that seems to be the prescription for the second round. The Pistons were the only winner of those 4 game twos in the last couple of days to not win the turnover battle. But like I said, they limited the Cavs to just 10 points off their mistakes. And more importantly, they outshot Cleveland 50 to 22% from beyond the arc. And for the second game in a row, and as he's done in every one of the Cavs' losses this postseason, all 5 of them, James Harden led Cleveland in turnovers. Now, I get it. He's the man handling the ball more often than anybody else. He's going to turn the ball over more than anybody else. But he's averaging at least 6 turnovers in each loss, and he cuts them down to 4 or less in each victory. And that may seem like a really small margin of error, 2 turnovers, especially for someone who handles the ball as much as Harden does. But that's how small the margin of error is against a strong defensive team like Detroit. If Harden doesn't start taking care of the basketball, this is going to be a very short series. Next.
4.
Still Purdy with a clean pocket. It's complete. It's Juwan Jennings to the pylon. Touchdown!
After wandering in free agency wilderness for the last 2 months, Juwan Jennings has found a home in Minnesota, signing a $13 million deal with the Vikings yesterday, less than some reports claim he was offered by the Niners earlier in free agency, somewhere around 17, I saw. Don't know if that was true, don't know if it's accurate, but Juwan Jennings, either way, sat around a long time. This is a good spot for him and for the team signing him, though. Mike Tirico on the call of that late go-ahead and eventual game-winning touchdown on NBC, Week 17 against the Bears. Jennings, I think, is the perfect add to the Vikings receiving corps for 2 reasons. If everyone stays healthy or just manages to stay on the field, which Jordan Addison has had issues with the last 2 years. If everyone stays on the field, that's a strong 3-man receiving corps. Justin Jefferson, one of the 2 or 3 best receivers in the league. Jordan Addison, a great compliment, and now we throw Juwan Jennings into the mix. That's exactly what you want with Aaron Jones in the backfield and a very good offensive line for Kyler Murray to actually maybe find some success at this point with KOC, quarterback, whispering in his ear, helping him realize his full potential. Very quietly, the Vikings, despite not doing anything flashy, have had a really good offseason. In a stacked NFC North, maybe that's the way you go about your business. Continue to fortify around the edges and find yourself maybe battling for a division title. Well, that would be a massive step for Kyler Murray. But at the very least, being one of multiple NFC North teams that's going to find themselves in the playoffs next January. Next.
3.
SGA gets I don't even know, a touch foul, I guess, on the drive. There was a stretch where 4 straight possessions, our guys got absolutely clobbered trying to make an entry pass to Jackson, and Jalen Williams is grabbing his jersey with both arms. That's a turn. They're hard enough to play. They're hard enough to play. You've got to be able to just call it if they foul, and they do foul.
JJ Redick last night in his post-game news conference talking to the media about how he feels the Lakers got the raw end of the deal from the officials. And you saw the entire Lakers roster gathered around the officiating crew at the end of the game. You saw Austin Reeves berating one of the officials in the middle of the third quarter. You saw LeBron berating the officials. So it's got to be an either-or proposition, right? They've either got to be the Floplahoma City Thunder or the whiny Lakers. Maybe both can be true. And maybe it can also be true that while the Thunder do everything up to and sometimes over the edge of what is looked at as good, clean, hard, ethical basketball to get those calls, they may just also be better than the Lakers. They've beaten them 6 times this season with an average margin of victory around 25 points per game. The Thunder aren't up 2-0 in this series. The Thunder didn't win last night. The Thunder aren't going to win this series, maybe in as little as 4 games, 5 max. The Thunder aren't NBA title contenders because they flop and they foul hard and they make it just a nightmare for you on both ends of the floor. The Thunder are all of those things because they are just better, and better than the Lakers. Maybe if Luka was involved in this series, it'd be a slightly different story. Maybe it'd be him screaming at the refs, though, instead of Austin Reeves and LeBron James. Maybe it'd be all three of them. It wouldn't really matter. The Thunder are just that much better than the Lakers and just about everybody else in the NBA right now. Flopping aside. So you can be mad that, like I said, OKC goes up to and over the line in how they decide to play on both ends of the floor. Hard fouls on one end, they don't get called all the time. Chet Holmgren going down as DeAndre Ayton tries to back down and clear a little space under the hoop like a Flophosaurus Rex, holding his jaw. Oh, you didn't even touch your jaw, Chet. Chill. You can get mad about that. You can get mad about the fact that the Thunder are also just better than everybody because both things can be true, and that's what it is in this case. Next.
2.
Warren, the running back. Warren, to fake it to him. Rodgers still has it. He's going to take off running for the touchdown. Aaron Rodgers.
Jim Nantz on CBS with the call of Aaron Rodgers' touchdown run in Baltimore last year, Week 14, in a win over the Ravens. You know, every once in a while, I said this about LeBron last week when the Lakers beat the Rockets, every once in a while, the old man finds a little lightning in a bottle. And Aaron Rodgers still finds that occasionally. Look at those Baltimore games. A couple other times last year. The Jets game in Week 1. Aaron Rodgers showed flashes of what he used to be. Now, they're just glimpses into what he used to be because there are other games. Cleveland game, granted he had no one to throw to. The playoff game against the Texans, where he looks like a 40-something-year-old quarterback out there. But that's what the Steelers are signing up for. That's what the Steelers have waited around for. And it sounds like, according to reports, Aaron Rodgers is going to be in Pittsburgh this weekend, if he isn't already. And it sounds like Aaron Rodgers will most likely sign a deal to return as the Steelers' starting quarterback in 2026. Which, if nothing else, will give Steelers fans, not just in Pittsburgh, but all over the country, all over the world, a chance to exhale and go, oh, God, at least it's finally over. And we don't have to keep asking, will he? Won't he? Is he? Isn't he? The other thing, though, that Steelers fans have questions about is what does this do to the development of two young quarterbacks that the organization says they believe in? Last year's 6th-round pick, Will Howard, who Mike McCarthy raved about this offseason. This year's 3rd-round pick, Drew Aller, who McCarthy has also said very good things about. What's it do to them? A whole lot of sitting around. A whole lot of sitting around once training camp starts for Aller and Howard. And if you're the Steelers, I get it. The standard is the standard. And the standard is supposed to be competing for championships, but that's why your fans are so annoyed at the Rodgers saga going the way it did again this offseason, because it's not pressing pause on the search and or development of a future franchise quarterback, if you believe either one of those guys, Aller or Howard, can be that, so that you can chase a title. It's pushing pause on the development of Aller and Howard or the search for another future franchise quarterback so that you can chase a wild card? Maybe for the first time in nearly a decade, a wild card victory? If there was one guy, aside from Aaron Rodgers, I would want to talk to today about whether Rodgers is actually going to be in Pittsburgh this weekend and re-sign with the Steelers and what it means for the organization going into 2026, it would be Steelers general manager Omar Khan. Lucky for you and lucky for me, we have Omar on the show in about 90 minutes at around 10:40 a.m. Eastern here on You Better You Bet, presented by BetMGM. Chris Mack in for Nick Kostos today here on Westwood One Sports. Next.
1.
Incredible performance. Shock and awe in college basketball. UMBC makes history in Charlotte.
Jim Nance on CBS 8 years ago. That was the final call of the 16th seeded University of Maryland, Baltimore County Greyhounds. I think they're the Greyhounds. Upsetting the 1 seed Virginia Cavaliers in the first round in 2018. That was the first time we ever got a 16 over a 1. Got another one a couple years later. But are you ever going to see another one? I don't know if you will. Because the NCAA, in their infinite wisdom, has decided to not just expand the NCAA tournament to 72 teams, but to do so in a way that makes the path for Cinderella somehow even more difficult. To add more teams who had middling conference records during the regular season, more teams who probably didn't really deserve a postseason berth from those power conferences. Yeah, give me more Auburns and Oklahomas. That's what I was looking for this spring in the NCAA tournament. Oh, you're going to keep the auto bids in for the small conferences? That's cool. They go straight to the field of 64, right? Oh no, they've all got to play-in games now, all the 16s and a couple of the 15s. That should be fun for them to go to Vegas or Dayton or wherever you hold these play-in games. And let's call them that too. Let's forever vow that moving forward, we will call them play-in games. Because these teams aren't getting their rightful spot in the NCAA tournament. They're getting them ripped away. And if Cinderella wasn't dead, she was at least in the coffin. And if she wasn't already dead and in the coffin and had a few nails driven into the casket, then this is the final one. Cinderella, dead. Coming up top of the hour, we'll get into that in a little bit more detail. And why I don't think the expansion of the CFP is as bad a thing as expansion of the NCAA tournament. But coming up next, the NFL dodging a potential disaster this season. They could be. We'll find out probably in a little less than 24 hours. We'll ask NFL Network's Judy Battista about it next, right here on You Better You Bet on Westwood One Sports.
What the new agreement has is a shared commitment from both the Referees Association and from the league to improve things, to improve accountability, and certainly to improve training.
This is You Better You Bet, presented by BetMGM on Westwood One Sports.
The great Judy Battista on the NFL Network's The Insiders last night, talking to Ian Rappaport about the ratification of a new CBA for the NFL's officiating crews that is currently being voted on. It's a 24-hour process, as Judy further explained. And, well, I mean, we're going to have the legend herself on in just a moment here. We'll talk to her further about what it means for the league's officials once this gets ratified, if it does at some point later today, and spin around the NFL with her, including questions of Aaron Rodgers and the Pittsburgh Steelers. You know, Judy's such a legend. Maybe I just ask her what I should ask Omar Khan when he joins in a little more than an hour. Steelers general manager will tell us exactly what's going on with Aaron Rodgers at 10:40 Eastern this morning here on You Better You Bet. Chris Mack in for Nick Kostos on Westwood One Sports. This segment sponsored by Progressive Commercial Insurance, protecting small businesses with affordable coverage options. Get a quote today at progressivecommercial.com. From NFL Network, the legend, one of the insiders herself, Judy Battista, joins us now on You Better You Bet. How are you, Judy? Good morning.
Good morning. First of all, you better ask Omar all the questions because I'm going to be listening. I need to hear what Omar says. So please ask him.
Yeah, Omar is a polished, crafty veteran. So yes. I'm curious to see how he dances around this in an hour on a day where, I'll be honest, Judy, I was told yesterday morning by someone close to the team that certain high-level people in the building didn't even know that Aaron was coming into town this weekend until that report broke yesterday. So again, it's just Aaron's world and we're all living in it, I guess.
Yeah, and listen, it's been this way all offseason, right? And it was this way all last offseason. We're on his calendar, which is what you get to do when you're an all-time great and the team wants you. So he's doing it his way. But at least it appears like we're creeping closer to finality on that, and that's a good thing.
Yeah, we could get back into the Steelers and their offseason in just a moment. Some questions about how the draft went for all teams, including them and the Eagles in the first round in particular. But let's focus on the news of the day, which is this CBA for the NFL Officials Association that's being voted on right now. It's up for ratification. And it sounds like we're as close to making these guys 100% professional officials as we can, as the league demands more of their time, not just during the season, but during the off season now.
Yeah, that was a big thing that the league wanted, was more access to officials in the off season for training purposes, mostly evaluation. And it sounds like they're going to get that. There's going to be, if this is ratified, which we certainly expect it will be ratified at this point, but if it goes through, there's going to be a more formalized training method used, in which they send these officials out to mini camps and training camps and joint practices and all of the opportunities you have during the off season before the games start. They believe they would be better with more reps, which I think is a logical thing to assume. And so they want to do that. They're also going to try to create a bench of officials so that when you need to replace officials, when somebody retires or just decides they're not going to do it anymore, or perhaps is not living up to the standard that they need them to be at, you have people ready to go who have already been trained, right? You're not like scouring the college ranks to have to bring somebody up and then having to train them quickly in one off season. So they want that. Obviously the officials want more money, and that's fine. But certainly the focus of this seems to be from both sides a commitment to better training, better preparation, and improved accountability. I mean, this negotiation took like 2 years to get to, so it was difficult. But I don't think there's any question. Both sides want officiating to be as good as it can possibly be, and the league, of course, wants it to be as close to perfect as it can be, right? The officials don't like to be in the bullseye after games, and they know that technology has put more and more of a focus on their work. And the league has indicated, Roger Goodell has indicated, he's very willing to use technology more and more to help officials. He even mentioned at the Super Bowl the possibility of using AI to aid officiating. So I think we're going to still see more of a rollout of that over the years. But if this is ratified, this is a very, very good thing for everybody, fans, coaches, players, certainly the officials and the league. Nobody wanted to go through what they went through in the officiating lockout of 2012 when they used replacement officials. That was a mess. And even though they have much better technology to support them now, nobody wanted to endure that.
Why does the league, because this is what you hear from fans every time there's some sort of officiating snafu and the officials have to answer for it, why does the league continue to resist making them 110% full-time employees of the league?
Well, first of all, I think it's on both sides. Historically, the officials didn't want to be full-time either. These are people who have full-time jobs themselves, right? I mean, Ed Hockley, who is now retired, but Ed Hockley was famously a partner in an Arizona law firm. Like, these are professionals, and they have full-time jobs. This is like a really great side hustle. The other feeling is that in the off-season, yes, you want more access to them, but is it really a 52-week, 40 hours a week, like that kind of job? No, it's not. There are gaps in the off season, obviously, where you just don't need access to them. What would they be doing all that time? Like, yes, you can train them, but like, there's no, we're talking about sending them out to mini camps and training camps. Okay, but as you know, there's long periods where players are not on the field, and so what would they be doing then? Like, just watching film 8 hours a day? Like, I think the feeling is there's a middle ground there between being full-time employees, and again, that is something that most officials have not wanted. They want to keep their jobs, and they want this to be, a demanding side hustle, but a side hustle.
Judy Battista of NFL Network's The Insiders. Read her at NFL.com as well. With us here on You Better You Bet, Chris Mack in for Nick Kostos today here on Westwood One Sports. The schedule release feels like it's right around the corner as well. As soon as they firm that up, Judy, we'll have a definitive date at some point in the next week and a half. Just how many, I know we've got the slate of international sites for games. How many more international games are we finally going to get to a point, not this year, but in the near future, where we're talking about 16 international games, an 18-game regular season for everybody, and possibly over the course of 20 weeks? Like, I know the CBA has a couple years left on it, but how close are we to making that a reality, all of those things?
Well, that has to be negotiated, as you know, with the Players Union, who only in the last few months settled on a new executive director, J.C. Treader, who had been there before, but not in the executive director role. And so I think the feeling is you got to give him a little time to get up to speed and get settled into his new job. The Players Union is certainly in no rush to reopen the CBA. The league, I think, has a little bit more urgency. They would like to do it. It feels inevitable that we are heading towards an 18-game regular season. And if we get there, when we get there, that would include 16 international games, one every week. And that way, every team would play an international game every year. International, there's just no way around it. You could be a casual fan and recognize this. International is a huge push for the NFL, right? There is huge growth potential for the international fan base for the NFL. It's a big focus. They are adding games in new countries every year now. They're playing in Australia this year. That should be amazing. That's a great sporting culture. So that should be great. They're going to play in Paris. They're already playing in Spain and Germany and obviously in London. Dublin last year with the Steelers was amazing. They're going to play in Rio this year. So the more and more places they can add, that tells you how big their push is internationally. I think it's inevitable that we get to playing a full slate internationally.
Let me pivot back towards the draft, because I mentioned that we're going to have Omar Khan on in a little more than an hour, and he was, I guess, the victim, if we want to call it that, of just some really slippery maneuvering by the Eagles. And I imagine the Steelers didn't expect the Eagles would be dealing with their division rivals, the Cowboys. But we've seen so much behind-the-scenes footage of how this went down now. The Eagles trading up to get Mackay Lemon in the first round. A lot of what I've heard from people outside of the Steelers fan base is, well, why were the Steelers trying to call Mekhi Lemon before they were on the clock? And I've heard of other teams doing that, Judy, but just what about the process do you think led to that going the way it did? And was there any kind of rule violation by anybody in this case?
No, I don't think there was a rule violation. I have heard of other teams calling ahead to tell a player, give a player a heads up, we're going to take you. I think that probably has happened more than we know, and it just so happens that this was caught on camera, right? As we have more and more cameras and more access into war rooms, and we have all these programs now, like the pick is in. You're seeing more of that kind of stuff happen. But that kind of stuff crazy stuff happens during the draft all the time. Like there's a snippet in the pick is in where you see Stephen Jones is negotiating a trade and then gets the Caleb Downs pick in 3 seconds left on the clock. That kind of stuff happens. That sort of crazy stuff happens. I think we just haven't seen it happen. This was a particularly unusual example, I think, because it was a high pick on top of it. But no, I don't think there was anything nefarious. I think it's like all's fair in love and war. You gotta, the Eagles wanted him, and it was fair that they maneuvered and traded and got into position to get him.
Judy Battista of NFL Network with us here on You Better You Bet on Westwood One Sports. Let's get back to Rodgers for just a second. What have you heard about the Steelers' regard for their young quarterbacks? They drafted Will Howard in the 6th round last year. They drafted Drew Aller in the 3rd round this year. But what I've heard from a lot of Steelers fans, especially Judy, is, we're pressing pause in essence on the development or seeing what we get out of Aller and Howard because Rodgers will come back and take all the snaps and be the starter. We're pressing pause on that to chase hopefully a wild card win for the first time in nearly a decade, and not necessarily to chase a Super Bowl, a championship. So just how unique is it for the Steelers to try to serve both ends of this? They're trying to compete now by bringing Rodgers back another year. They're also trying to build for the future, and Mike McCarthy loves to develop quarterbacks by having both Will Howard and Drew Aller on the roster now.
Right. Well, in having Mike McCarthy there, you pointed out, he develops quarterbacks. This is what he does. This is what he loves to do. So it's good to have the young quarterbacks in there. Obviously, at some point, you're going to have a succession plan. I was told they really like Will Howard, and Mike McCarthy wants to work with him. Now, that was a few months ago before the draft, that he wants to work with him and see what they can get. And now you've got Drew Aller there, who plenty of people liked in the draft. So let's see what they can do. But you're right. Once Aaron Rodgers comes in, obviously he is the guy. But that doesn't mean they can't work with the young guys on the practice field, certainly in the off season. It's also not a bad thing for young guys to learn from somebody like Aaron Rodgers. All right, that's not a bad person to sit there and watch. They're trying to serve both masters. You see teams do this all the time. The Rams just drafted a quarterback in the 1st round who they are almost certainly not going to play because they have the reigning league MVP. So they are clearly trying to win right now. The Steelers, Art Rooney said it a while ago, they are not interested in rebuilding, right? This is not a franchise that is willing to say, all right, we're going to sort of take a pass on this season. We're going to drop all the way down, and then we'll draft a quarterback high and rebuild from there. That is not their DNA. They want to be competitive all the time. And they have some older players, Cam Hayward, TJ Watt, who they're trying to maximize, right? There's only so many more seasons you're going to have those guys playing at their level. Cam Hayward was an all-pro last year. He was terrific. So you're trying to make a push while you still have those guys. I do think in serving both masters, you have to hope that one of these young guys hits, because otherwise you're just sort of in this constant cycle of trying to find the next one. But I liked the way they worked their draft this year to support both causes, because they'd spent a lot on offense this offseason. They did a lot on offense. They added receivers, offensive linemen, right, a running back, Enrico Dowdle. So they did a lot that will help Aaron Rodgers right now, but will also help the next guy. If that next guy comes next year or whenever, they will help that. So I do think they're going about it in a smart way. It's a delicate balancing act. We see it all the time in the league. And again, you just have to hope that one of the young guys hits.
Judy, Juwan Jennings finally signed somewhere yesterday, up to $13 million potential in this one-year deal with the Vikings. Did he hurt himself by maybe playing hardball with the Niners right out of the gate early in free agency negotiations? And what do you think, if that wasn't it, what do you think caused him to sit around so long?
Yeah, I think he probably had greater expectations than what the market was going to bear. The Vikings are a good fit for him, though. But obviously, he is now sort of on a prove-it deal. It's a one-year deal, and he can. That was probably the smart thing to do, and get another bite at the apple next year. He has to hope that he has a big season and he gets the money that he felt he should have this year. But yeah, I think he probably went in with bigger expectations and priced himself out. If you look at the 49ers, like that was the best place for him. Right? Like they need wide receiver help. And, he had a big role there last year and he played well there. I suspect that this 1 year he will be highly, highly motivated in this year to show that he is worth more than he's making right now.
Before I let you run, Judy, I have to ask, is there any rumbling at all out of Foxborough that Mike Vrabel may not be the head coach there this fall?
If there is, I have not heard it. They went to the Super Bowl last year with Mike Vrabel, and as many headlines as there have been with Vrabel over the last however many weeks it's been now, 6 weeks. It's a long way to the season, and unless you see the off-field stuff affecting his ability to coach, which I just can't imagine is going to be the case when we get to September or even August, then they would not move on from him. This is, on his side at least, this is a private matter. He did not violate any ethical code of his profession, as tawdry as the situation is. And so unless you see tangible evidence that it's impacting his ability to reach players, they would not move on from him. Here's the bottom line. He's a really good coach. He's had success everywhere as a coach. They went to the Super Bowl with him last year. It would take an awful lot to move on from a coach like that under any conditions, and I just don't see this condition being the one.
Great stuff. Love catching up with you, Judy. Thank you for all the insight. And if you have any suggestions on what to ask Omar aside from Aaron Rodgers questions, although I'm sure I could fill 15 minutes with him, you just text him over.
What are you doing this weekend, Omar? That is the question.
Yeah, that's the opener. Thank you so much again, Judy, for your time this morning.
Great to talk to you. Take care.
Judy Battista of NFL Network with us here on You Better You Bet. Chris Mack in for Nick Kostos today here on Westwood One Sports. I think ultimately that's the right answer about Vrabel. Like, I don't see Vrabel not being there in training camp and the fall. Now, I know there's been this death by 1,000 cuts as far as the stories leaking out in drips and drabs and photos here and videos there. But look, if Mike Vrabel had the requisite level of shame to at some point say, okay, enough's enough, I got to walk away from the team, it would have happened already. At this point, you're so down deep into the dark hole of shame. Is there a new rock bottom to be found? I don't know. I probably wouldn't have said there would have been a week, 2 weeks ago, but just more keeps coming out. And let's not pretend like the owner is going to hold up Vrabel's job over some sort of moral code. He's done his own massaging of the system, so to speak, in the past. Coming up next, it's not quite train, say your prayers, and eat your vitamins, brother, but the formula for victory in the NBA Conference semifinals, the second round of the playoffs, has been laid out through the first 2 games of each series, and I'll tell you exactly what it is next here on You Better You Bet on Westwood One Sports.
This is You Better You Bet, presented by BetMGM on Westwood One Sports.
Oh, it's Friday. Feels good, too, to be talking football. Thanks to Judy, Battista of NFL Network for joining. Coming up in less than an hour, right around 10:40 a.m. Eastern, Steelers General Manager Omar Khan here on You Better You Bet, presented by BetMGM here on Westwood One Sports. Chris Mack in for Nick Kostos. And we'll just ask Omar straight up, because if there's anybody in the world that should know whether Aaron Rodgers is going into Pittsburgh this weekend to sign a new deal for 2026, aside from Aaron Rodgers, you would think it would be Omar Khan. So we will ask him straight up, like I said, in a little less than an hour. Top of the hour, expansion of the NCAA tournament officially to 72 teams. Why I hate it and why I don't hate expansion of the CFP. Yeah. You could call me a hypocrite all you want. That's fine. Wouldn't be the first time, won't be the last time. Game 3s in the NBA tonight in Philly and Minnesota as those two teams play must-wins against the Knicksers and Spurs, respectively. And I get it. The Spurs T-Wolves series is one game apiece. So you wouldn't ordinarily say that's must-win. But I think given the way Game 2 went, it is must-win territory for the T-Wolves if they don't want to watch that series slowly slip away from any possibility of a win. As for last night, both the Pistons and the Thunder go up 2-0 in their respective series. And the story out of Floplahoma City, as some people in LA are calling it. Actually, nobody in LA is calling it that. I just came up with that before the show. And hopefully, if there's anybody in LA that wants to sell T-shirts with Floplahoma City on it and send me like 50% of the royalties, I'm down. I'm on board. Let's go. Not that I think the Thunder are a bunch of floppers. They do flop from time to time. And not that I necessarily think that's the reason they're winning this series. And it's not. They're just better than everybody else, guys. I know that's a hard thing for anybody outside of Oklahoma City to swallow. Oklahoma City is just the best team right now. Do they also foul hard and get away with it just because of the preponderance of hard fouls they hand out? Yes. Do they also flop sometimes? Yes. But the problem with J.J. Redick and LeBron James and Austin Reeves and anybody else in purple and gold complaining about it last night is that all it does is serve as an excuse. You just look like you're whining. And I get it. Every head coach tries to drop some little breadcrumbs, some little nuggets in front of the officials so he can maybe get a call later. And maybe it helps turn a game later in this series. But I also look at it this way. You're not beating the Thunder. You're not. Not without Luka Doncic involved. And even then, I don't know if you'd beat the Thunder. So quit giving your guys an excuse for why they can't beat the Thunder. Because that's what Redick coming out and saying that in the postgame does. If you're J.J. Redick, and look, he would know better than me. He played in the league. He's now a head coach in the league. But if I'm J.J. Redick, I work the officials all night long between the whistles. Point out every little single thing they missed that I think they should have called and vice versa. But once the game's over, I don't go out to the post-game press conference and hammer them even more. I don't. Because I'm just building the excuse for why we're not going to win this series. And again, the Lakers weren't going to beat the Thunder in this series anyway. But all you're doing is just, all you're going to get out of that is a bunch of guys in the locker room shrugging their shoulders going, well, I guess we can't win anyway because the refs don't want us to. That's not the way you try and battle back and make this at least a series and avoid at least a gentleman's sweep. As for the formula for winning in this second round, It's been laid out. And like I said, it's not sexy. It's just don't allow the other team to capitalize on mistakes and hit your threes. Nowhere has that been more on display than in the Cavs-Pistons series. Pistons turned the ball over more than Cleveland last night, but limited the damage. Cavs scored just 10 points off of turnovers. And more importantly, the Pistons outshot Cleveland from beyond the three-point line 50% to 22%. If Cleveland is going to make this a series, only two things they got to do, and they all go through the same guy. Clean up the turnovers, start hitting the threes. Yes, I'm looking at you, James Harden. We'll get into the game threes tonight between the Knicks and Sixers and the Spurs and T-Wolves in about 25 minutes. Coming up next, though, they're trying to fix something that isn't broken, and they didn't need to do it. The NCAA tournament expanding. We'll whine about it next here on You Better You Bet.
It's time to laugh, to win, and to live the thrill of the action.
Hey, baby, let's go out there like a bunch of crazy dogs. What the hell's going on out here?
No idea what's going on, but I am excited.
Every pick, every play, every game-changing moment. This is You Better You Bet, brought to you by BetMGM on Westwood One Sports.
Coming up, they just couldn't leave well enough alone. They had to go and try to fix something that wasn't broken. I'll tell you who they are and how it's now FUBAR'd. I won't spell out the acronym for you because we're live across North America on Westwood One Sports. Chris Mack in for Nick Kostos here on You Better You Bet inside the Westwood One Sports app, the Audacy app, and on SiriusXM channel 375. Baseball, big weekend of baseball happening. Some teams righting the ship, feeling like they're getting moving back in a positive direction. The NL Central, somehow the most stacked division in baseball. No one had that on the bingo card. But if you're betting home runs with BetMGM and that home run bet comes up short, thanks to the MLB No Sweat Home Run token, you don't have to worry if that bet doesn't clear the fences. Just activate your token when you bet on any player to hit a home run in any MLB game. If that player fails to go yard, you get your stake back in bonus bets. Keep the action in scoring position with BetMGM, the king of the big swing. Omar, Steelers general manager, going to join us in exactly 37 minutes from now to talk about Aaron Rodgers and the rest of the Steelers offseason, but Aaron Rodgers and whether he's actually going to be back in Pittsburgh this weekend, as some have reported, to sign a new deal to be the Steelers quarterback in 2026. Also, what's it mean for those young quarterbacks who Mike McCarthy is trying to develop, Will Howard, Drew Aller, and are they going to get over the hump this year and actually win a playoff game? Steelers GM Omar Khan coming up right around 10:40 a.m. Eastern here on You Better You Bet. Back into the NBA playoffs in less than 15 minutes. NBA Game 3s tonight in the Twin Cities. T-Wolves try to steal another one from the Spurs. And Sixers try to stay alive against the Knicks, down 2-0. Audacy NBA insider Nick Friedell going to join us in the third and final hour. And we'll just ask him straight out. Are the Lakers right? Should we rename it Floplahoma? Or are the Thunder just that much better? And that's why they're up 2-0 on the Lakers. But they've ruined it. They've tried to fix something that wasn't broken, the NCAA. The tournament, it was announced yesterday, will officially be moving to 72 teams. The NCAA men's basketball tournament starting next year. And I said this last week when I was filling in for Nick. This ruins one of the most magical days on the sports calendar. There is nothing like the first 2 days of the NCAA tournament. You knock off work early. You take some clients out for lunch, which is really just you and the boys going to get some wings and watching the opening of the NCAA tournament. And you watch teams that maybe you haven't watched at all season long. In some cases, you watch those teams go up against absolute powerhouses. And you say, man, they're pushing them to the brink here. Look at this. We might get UMBC Virginia. We might get a 2 over or a 15 over a 2. We might. Who's your 5-12? All those conversations you have on the Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday between the brackets coming out and the actual games tipping off. All those conversations, you don't have time to have them because you got to start watching games right out of the gate. You don't have time to do research on whoever won the Horizon League championship and whether they may actually be able to upset the 3 seed they have to play in the first round. Instead, we're going to jump right in. 76 teams. Bang. Ugh. And the problem is, a lot of those teams, you don't even want to see play. Were you itching? Like, hey, man, can I get me some more Auburn basketball a couple months ago? No. Hey, can I get some more Oklahoma? No. Nobody was fiending for more Oklahoma or Auburn or Indiana. But those are the teams that are going to be in the tournament now. And they'll play in some sort of play-in game, because I will stand firm that all of these are play-in games. And that's the disrespectful part to the small conference teams. All 4 16 seeds will now be played into. You will have 8 16 seeds. And these small conference schools that maybe came out of nowhere to win their conference tournament, or conversely, the other side of the coin, maybe they were dominant in their conference schedule all year long. Either way, there'll be good stories, and they won't immediately go right into the field of 64. They'll have to play on Tuesday or Wednesday. And again, I know it seems silly, but this ruins the whole idea of printing brackets and filling out a bracket, making sure you get it in by noon on Thursday. Like I said, doing the research on the teams that maybe you don't know anything about. Handing it to your wife or your aunt or your grandmother or Karen in accounting, and she picks everything based off of mascots or team colors and ends up doing better than you anyway. If it starts Tuesday, it loses all of that. Because no longer are some of these 12 seeds, can you look at it and say, okay, I like this 12 against this 5. That's a good matchup. But if they lose their opening round game and they're not even in the field of 64, then I can't pick them. All those little slash spots on the bracket, ruined, gone, done. Now, maybe all the bracket contests will adjust and they'll figure out a way to make those Tuesday and Wednesday games count. And maybe the world will adjust. Hey, everything moves at a faster pace now anyway. Maybe the world will adjust to having to get their brackets in on Tuesday morning instead of Thursday morning. But let's bring it back to the original point here, which is most of these teams that are now going to get into the tournament don't deserve to be there anyway. They don't. And so what are we doing? If we're going to have 6 12 seeds now, or 8 12 seeds, whatever it's going to be, guess what happens to all the little guys on the 13 and 14 lines? Right. They're in a worse spot now. The trickle-down effect of just adding more major conference teams to the mix is that you get more bad basketball as well. And I get it. Like, everybody wants to make more money. I do. Totally get it. But this was not the way to do it. It wasn't broken. I said that years ago when they expanded to 65 and then eventually 68. It wasn't broken. And the NCAA tries to couch it as an argument about balance, right? Oh, well, only 18% of our teams make the postseason. That's less than in really any other sport. Okay. What's your point? This isn't the NHL where half the teams make the playoffs, and it doesn't have to be. And again, we're not talking about opening up more spots for mid-majors and small conference teams. No, they're just all going to get, the small conference teams especially, shoved off to a play-in round. We're talking about opening up more spots for those major conference teams that really didn't play well enough to be invited to the postseason anyway. It reminds me of when the NIT was still a legit thing. And if your team spent most of the year on the bubble and ended up not going to the NCAA tournament, you wouldn't be excited about the NIT, but at least there would be a sense of, okay, I get to watch a couple more consolation games at least. And you'd watch your team play in the NIT on a Tuesday or Wednesday night. But as that fell by the wayside because, well, it didn't make enough money, and as more teams decided they needed to get their cut of the pie, and the pie grew larger and larger, you ended up with what we have now, 76 teams in the NCAA tournament starting next year. And it sucks. I can't put it any more plainly or simply. It sucks. They tried to fix something that wasn't broken, and in doing so, they've bleeped it up beyond all recognition. As for the CFP, which seems destined for 24 teams, let me tell you exactly why I don't hate that, even though I hate the idea of the basketball tournament going to 76 teams. It's because at least you open the door. Now, it will open the door to some 9-3s, right? We're going to get some scintillating 9-3 SEC and Big Ten teams added to the mix if we expand the CFP to 24 teams. But it should also, if they do it right, which I guess is still up for debate, if they do it right, it may get us a couple more of those group of 5 teams. And immediately everyone goes, oh, who wants to see that? I don't need to see James Madison get waxed by Oregon. I don't need to see Tulane go to Oxford and get smashed by Ole Miss. I get it. But the same concept that existed for so long in college basketball, you never know, should exist in college football. You never know. I don't know what the percentage of, for example, 14 seeds who upset 3 seeds is over the history of the NCAA tournament, but it's more than 0. And as long as the percentage of an underdog beating a massive powerhouse favorite is more than 0, then I will be there for giving those underdogs, those group of 5s, a shot. Now, more often than not, is it going to lead to them going to Tuscaloosa or Eugene or Ann Arbor or wherever and getting smashed? Yeah, it's still going to happen. But that's what makes it that much more special when the upset does happen. We're only in the first few years of this college football playoff system, too. You can assume we're never going to see the massive upset in the first round, but it's going to happen eventually. And that's why it's important that you open it up to more opportunities for that chaos. Even if it only happens, say, once every 7, 8, maybe even every 10 years, where, what would it be? I guess it would be 24 going to play 9. And 24 upsets 9. It's going to happen eventually. And when it does, it's going to make it that much more worth it that you open the door to the possibility. Even if it means 99 times out of 100, 24 gets smashed by 9. But hey, everybody got paid. And by the way, I've seen a lot of people make the argument, oh, well, you wanted the players to get paid. Didn't you see this was going to happen? I'll be real clear about this. Players getting paid is not what created this system, this new 76-team tournament. The NCAA deciding that they still had to get theirs and trying to whistle past the graveyard of paying players, knowing that they were going to have to do it eventually, but refusing to have a good faith conversation about it, is what led us to this path. Until finally, it was hammered home by the Supreme frickin' Court. You got to pay the players. And still, yet, they don't come up with a system that makes sense, that keeps things from getting out of control. So the NIL money continues to rise. Things continue to spiral out of control. And the NCAA pulls that old Eric Andre meme where they kill the tournament and then turn around and go, who would do such a thing? Coming up next, the story of the NBA's first round of the playoffs was big men and defense. Can a pair of teams in must-win situations tonight re-find that formula before losing control of their conference semifinals series? That's next here on You Better You Bet on Westwood One Sports.
Welcome back to You Better You Bet on Westwood One Sports.
Injuries aplenty to talk about for important pieces in a Game 3 tonight. The one team get up off the mat at home, and we get a decisive swing in momentum in Game 3 of a Western Conference series. We'll get into all of that. Are these both must win, perhaps, for both the Sixers and the T-Wolves in just a moment here on You Better You Bet, presented by BetMGM. Chris Mack in for Nick Kostos today here on Westwood One Sports. This segment sponsored by Progressive Commercial Insurance, protecting your business vehicles 24/7. See if you can save at progressivecommercial.com. The reports yesterday morning are that Aaron Rodgers is due to be in Pittsburgh this weekend to presumably sign a deal that makes him the Steelers quarterback for one more year. We'll ask a guy who should know. Steelers general manager Omar joins us in a little more than 15 minutes, right around 10:40 a.m. Eastern here on You Better You Bet, live across North America on Sirius XM Channel 375, inside your Westwood One Sports app, and inside your Audacy app. You're always welcome in on the conversation at 310-840-4910, 310-840-4910. Tonight, must win for the Sixers. We know that. We just don't know if they're going to face the Knicks with the same level of urgency that the Knicks have shown for really more than the past week and a half. Since going down 2-1 to the Hawks in the first round, the Knicks have played as if their lives were in the balance. And they've just been filthy. They've also been healthy, which has been really important to them at times, running teams out of the gym. And they might not be totally healthy tonight. OG Anunoby is questionable with a hamstring strain. If he misses time, you would think the Knicks would prefer for it to be just this one game, and then hopefully get him back on track for Game 4. Josh Hart, also questionable. Meanwhile, the Sixers are dealing with questions about Joel Embiid. Welcome back to the Joel Embiid story. It really felt towards the end of the first round and through at least Game 1, like that wouldn't have to be the story for the Sixers, but we're right back to that being the story for the Sixers. If Embiid is healthy and in the lineup tonight, and you don't have OG and or Josh Hart for the Knicks, that's when you get the Sixers as home favorites. And they are right now home favorites at BetMGM. 1.5 points they're favored by. If you do get Anunoby, though, and you do get Hart, and you don't get Embiid, that thing will flip quickly later this afternoon. If you're looking to bet this game, you want to stay on top of it all day here on Westwood One Sports. But my question would be just how important Anunoby's absence is or isn't, not just tonight. And this isn't a question of whether losing OG Anunoby is important or not. It's obviously important. He does a number of things on both ends of the floor that are very important to the Knicks winning games as impactfully as they have, like I said, over the last week and a half. But are you willing to play OG Anunoby at less than 100% tonight, if he can go, in order to go up 3-0 in a series, to go up decisively, to essentially put it away? Or are you willing to roll the dice that without Anunoby, and maybe without Hart as well, we'll see, that you may lose on the road tonight, especially if Embiid is back and looking like himself again. You may lose on the road tonight, and all of a sudden, I don't want to say the first two games were for nothing, because you still have a lead in the series, but now all of a sudden, the onus and the pressure shift right back onto your shoulders if you're the Knicks. I do everything I can. If I'm Mike Brown and the Knicks training staff, I do everything I can to get OG Anunoby out on the floor tonight, assuming he can actually be effective. And I go up 3-0 in this series because I don't see any way, short of Joel Embiid coming back, playing, and being that guy that he was late in the first round, I don't see any way the Sixers win Game 3. Short of the Knicks being less than 100%. Now, the argument could be made, no, why would you risk Anunoby's health when you're already up 2-0? The prudent thing to do is to let him sit, get him back to 100%. If you lose Game 3, you still got a chance to win Game 4 and go back home up 3-1. And that would be the more conservative, prudent way to attack it. But I'd rather go up 3-0. I'd rather see if there isn't a way to put the series away in Game 4. Or the old gentleman's sweep in 5. And then have plenty of time to sit and rest and wait. That's when Anunoby's hamstring can really heal up. If you end this series in 4 or 5 games and you get to sit around and wait to see what happens with Detroit and Cleveland, although right now it looks like the Pistons could take care of business in short order as well, that's what my angle would be. Now, if Anunoby truly can't go tonight, then that's a different story. As for the other Game 3 tonight, in Minneapolis, Spurs, Minnesota Timberwolves. The one thing I'm taking away from Game 2, other than San Antonio's utter dominance, is that Minnesota looked as unenergetic, as disengaged as they've looked the entire postseason. And I don't know if that's a byproduct of surprising everyone, including maybe themselves, by winning Game 1 on the road and letting off the gas. I don't know what that is. The, Ant's back, he's going to save us factor. I don't know. But I would suspect that you don't get that same level of listlessness from the T-Wolves tonight, especially at home. So I don't know if I like the Timberwolves to win outright, but I sure as hell like the Timberwolves to put on a much better performance than they did in Game 2. Spurs favored by 4.5 on the road. I would take the 4.5 and take Minnesota. I'm not saying there's no way at all that the Spurs don't blow them out. If they do, though, this series is done. If this is a nail-biter and San Antonio hits a big shot late to put it away and they win by 6, I'll take that L. And the series still has some life in it, I think. As long as Minnesota looks like they care again. But if the Spurs just dominate as they did in Game 2, this thing's done. It's cooked. It's over. Even if they are only up 2-1. Because that's the bigger problem for Minnesota. I don't know if they just used up every last ounce of energy they had in the first round in closing out Denver before it went to a Game 7. I don't know, like I said, if everybody exhaled when Anthony Edwards came back, if everybody exhaled after a surprising Game 1 win. I don't know what it was, but I'm not counting on it happening again tonight. And if it does, again, I'll take the L, and I think we'll safely be able to say that the Timberwolves are cooked. If they can't bounce back from the way they performed in Game 2, and like I said, just the lack of energy, the listlessness, if they can't bounce back from that, then they don't deserve to be in the series anyway. And again, the formula has been in the second round so far: cause turnovers, capitalize off those mistakes, and hit your threes. You do those things, you will win. Score more points off turnovers and hit your threes, and you will win. That's become the second round formula, just like the first round formula was bigs and defense. Although the Spurs are capable of any number of different formulas for finding their way to victory. That's why they and Oklahoma City are the two best teams left. And the closest reasonable comparison to what those two teams do in the East is the Knicks. Knicks Thunder or Knicks Spurs? Which one do we like more as a possible NBA final? I think I like Knicks Spurs. Wemby in the Garden. Wemby in the Garden. Yeah. Because I can't handle the idea of the Floplahoma City Thunder and what the crowd will do in the Garden the first time Chet Holmgren falls out like Lee Harvey Oswald just clipped him from the book depository. Again, I'm not saying that's why Oklahoma City won last night or is winning the series or hasn't lost yet in the playoffs. They're the best team in basketball right now. But chill it with the flops. And if you're the Lakers, stop whining about it. We'll talk to Nick Friedell, Audacy NBA insider, in about 45 minutes about how he suspects things will play out tonight in Philly and Minnesota and what he takes away from Game 2s where the Pistons and Thunder each went up 2-0 in their series. But coming up next, if anybody would know where Aaron Rodgers is supposed to be this weekend and whether he's going to be the Steelers quarterback again this fall, it's this guy, Steelers general manager Omar Khan, next here on You Better You Bet on Westwood One Sports.
This is You Better You Bet, presented by BetMGM on Westwood One Sports.
Is he? Isn't he? Will he? Won't he? Aaron Rodgers back with the Pittsburgh Steelers for another year. Reports yesterday said that he's coming into town this weekend and presumably to sign another one-year deal with the Steelers. They put that UFA tag on him a couple weeks ago. There was some pushback on that from some other directions, but it sounds like he's coming into town this weekend. He's going to sign the deal. Everybody's back together after a little bit of a wait for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Thought it might get done before free agency. Thought it might get done before the draft. There were hopes and expectations from different people in the organization about that. Maybe it gets done now as rookie minicamp is opening up for the Steelers and all those youngins can absorb Aaron Rodgers' knowledge. Who else would you want to ask, though, if we were going to ask anybody, aside from Aaron Rodgers, about where Aaron may be and whether he's going to be in Pittsburgh this weekend and what the future holds? Who else would you rather ask than Steelers general manager Omar Khan? If there's anybody that would know, it would be Steelers general manager Omar Khan, who luckily we happen to have on the phone right now here on You Better You Bet on Westwood One Sports. Chris Mack in for Nick Kostos. Morning, Omar. How are you? Thank you for making the time.
Chris, how are you? Good to talk to you. How are things going for you?
Fantastic, my friend. I'm not going to lead with the question about which pizza you and McCarthy fought over getting for the draft room. I know you're a pizza aficionado. We'll save that for later. People want to know answers to much more difficult questions, which is Aaron Rodgers in town this weekend, Omar? And will he be back as the Steelers quarterback?
Yeah, I don't know where specifically Aaron is. I can tell you that Aaron and I and Coach and Aaron and Aaron's representative, we've had some good conversations since the season ended and, since Mike got hired. And, it's been positive. But, yeah, I don't know where he is at this moment. We've continued to have conversations, and they're positive. And, we had a good experience with him last year, and, I think he would probably echo the same thing. And, conversations continue.
You guys have seemed to be very comfortable, you, the organization as a whole, Omar, with letting this process play itself out and letting Aaron have his space. What goes into you guys being that comfortable that when it's all said and done, there's a trust that if Aaron ends up anywhere, it will be back in Pittsburgh this fall?
Yeah, I think from the trust standpoint, I think, just based on the conversations that we've all had, I think this, like I mentioned, this was positive with us and him last year. And it's, I think he would tell you that it was positive for him too. We got to know him last year, and, it was cool, and, Aaron's an extremely intelligent person. And I've said this before, pound for pound, one of the toughest people I've ever met. And, it was good. And, from the rest of your question, I'll just say, right now the opportunity to focus on some of these young guys out here and it's what we do. Some of these young guys need developed, and new coaching staff, and a lot going on, a lot of new faces, and there's a lot of situations where people just don't know each other, and this is a great opportunity for us to get to know them and them to get to know who we are.
Steelers general manager Omar Khan with us here on You Better You Bet on Westwood One Sports. Chris Mack in for Nick Kostos today. I imagine a large part of the reason the organization decided to hire Mike McCarthy, Omar, is because he does have a great track record of working and developing young quarterbacks. So you guys now have the opportunity to work with and develop two young quarterbacks, but you've also got, if Aaron were to come back, a veteran in place who I imagine during training camp and preseason will see some snaps. How do you balance that? Because you've, I think, as an organization and you in your role, tried to balance the desire to continue to compete and contend now while still building for the future. And at a position as important as quarterback, where it's important those young guys get those reps, how do you balance that, assuming Aaron is back?
Yeah, that's a really great question. Obviously, you're limited by what the rules of the collective bargaining agreement allow you to do in the off season, and obviously during training camp. But the coach has experience doing this, and as you mentioned, he has a track record of working with the young guys and veteran guys. And the benefit is, if we have a veteran quarterback like Aaron here, those two guys have history and they know each other. But right now, we're starting our rookie camp today, and Coach has the ability to spend some time with Drew, who we drafted. We're excited to have him in the fold. And the last few weeks, Will's been around, and watching these guys work together, it's been pretty cool to watch. I saw Coach McCarthy, was that in 2000? Watch him work with guys like Jake Delhomme and Aaron Brooks, and watch how he helped those guys become better pros. And I've seen how he's been working with Will so far. And hey, today these rookies are here. Today's a great day. You got these rookies. We drafted these guys, and they're here. We can start working with them, helping them become better football players, and help us become a better football team. And look, at the end of the day, we're all searching for championships, not only this year but in the future. So the balancing, there's some balancing you have to do, like your question asked. But we're confident that the rules allow us to do it all.
If Aaron weren't to come back, Omar, would you guys be comfortable going into the season with the three quarterbacks that you have on the roster? Mason Rudolph obviously is a veteran who's been there and has spot started in the past, but then two guys without any NFL snaps on their resume, and Howard and Aller.
Yeah, that'll all shake out. We have Mason Rudolph has been here for a few years, and he's been great. I mean, I'm sure you got to know Chris, got to know Mason through the years, and he's a great teammate. We've been in the playoff with him. We value him as a teammate, and it's how the spring and the summer goes. All that kind of shakes out. And the one thing I learned a long time ago is these things sort of tend to take care of themselves as the process goes on.
Omar Khan, Steelers general manager, with us here on You Better You Bet on Westwood One Sports. I have to ask, Omar, because it feels like the league and the Cross-State Eagles may be trolling you guys at this point with the amount of behind-the-scenes footage they have put out behind the whole Mackay Lemon thing at 20 and 21. How did that happen? And did you just not expect Jerry Jones and Stephen Jones to deal with a rival to get ahead of you? How did that all play out on Thursday night of the draft?
Yeah, I'll just let me start by saying, like, we're really excited about our draft classes. As I sat back after the draft and we looked at it, and our ability to fill up some needs that we had and acquire really, really good football players. We were excited. And I can tell you about the draft. The draft, regardless of the round, sometimes the draft throws some curveballs at you, and you have to adjust. But when you have a good process and you have a good board, and I love our process, to be honest with you. The way that Andy Weidel and Dan Colbert, we added Tim Gribble and Mark Sadowski and those guys, the jobs that they do. But when you trust that your board and your process, things sort of tend to take care of itself. And they did for us. It was a good draft, really good football players, and we think we got a handful of them.
When that went down the way it did, Omar, did you guys, how deep did the conversations go in the immediate aftermath, those next few seconds or minutes? Did you know that Max Ahanichor, who you drafted out of Arizona State, was, okay, yeah, bang, that's next on the board? Or did you guys talk about sticking at wide receiver? Were there people calling in to see if you wanted to move back? Just how much was going on in those next 8 minutes?
So I'll say, like, when you're regardless of the round, you always have a handful of guys that you're prepared, that you're excited about, that you would take with that selection. And it's no different in round 1 or round 7. And when things happen, you prepare. When you're on the clock, you pick the player that you feel is the right player for you. Now, those decisions are usually made before you get to the draft. You sort of know who you would take in those situations, and that goes back to the process of trusting your board. If you feel good about your board and where you have guys positioned, these things take care of itself.
Do you guys feel confident that if you have to move some of your offensive line pieces around, whether it's moving your right tackle, Troy Fautanu, to left so Ihanachor can play it right, or moving Jennings Dunker, the kid from Iowa, beautiful mullet, by the way, to guard from tackle, do you guys feel comfortable about having moving pieces on the offensive line, or would you like to lock in your starting five as early as possible?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So I've said this many times. Position flexibility and versatility is always key. At the end of the day, I think we want to have the best combination of players on the football field, and it always helps when you have players that can play different positions. Right, left, guard, tackle, center, guard. When you have that, you're in a good spot, and I think that's where we are. And it's early, Chris. It's early. We haven't put the pads on, and we got to get to Latrobe, which can't wait to get to Latrobe. That's always a great time. I don't know how much time you spent out there, Chris, but that's an awesome place to be, and a lot of great football happens there. But until we put the pads on, when it comes to those guys in the trenches, we'll see. You have to put the pads on, see where that goes.
Dino's Wings. Obviously, I've been to Latrobe, Omar. But before we let you run, I got to ask the important question here. You guys didn't get to go down and partake in the actual draft, obviously, even though it was in Pittsburgh. You're in the draft room. McCarthy's a Greenfield guy. I know you're a pizza fan. Did you get to make the final call on which pizza was ordered to the War Room on draft day? Because I got to think Big Mike had his opinions too.
That's probably the best question you've asked me so far. So I'll just say I do love pizza, and the one thing people never talk about enough about Pittsburgh is how great the pizza is here. There is unbelievable pizza everywhere you go. There's pizza places everywhere, but there are some phenomenal pizzas, and I'll just say him and I have similar opinions when it comes to that. Not always exactly the same, but that's always a good discussion.
Well, the city of Pittsburgh, for what it's worth, for those that haven't been there before or didn't get to see how the draft was pulled off in the city of Pittsburgh, I'll just say the city, the organization, the league all did a phenomenal job, I thought, of pulling off. It was a great showcase for the city, for the organization. And would you guys like to have it back? Is that something you would lobby for, having it in Pittsburgh again soon?
Oh, 100%. It should be here every year. I mean, I can just tell you, what an awesome experience. Chris, did you have friends? Did you make it down there? Did you go down there?
Yeah, I walked down there Friday afternoon before the actual picks got started Friday night. And I'll say this, Omar, it was the cleanest traffic I've ever seen on the Parkway West. And also, it was just a great atmosphere. You had Browns fans, Ravens fans, Raiders fans, Eagles fans, Steelers fans, and I didn't see one disagreement amongst the bunch.
Yeah, so it was awesome. I went down there one morning just to kind of check out the setup. It's pretty unique. Early one morning just so I could get, to experience it. But I got to tell you, man, the cooperation, what a unique example of teamwork, the cooperation between, the league office and the city and state officials and the team here, our staff. I can't tell you how much Art Rooney and Dan Rooney did to get this to Pittsburgh and make it great. And even you include the people in the city, man, the way everybody just kind of came together to make this happen. Because Pittsburgh's, Western PA, man, what a great place. And, for us to be able to showcase it to the world and have all millions and millions of people watching, it was great. Because this is truly special place. Great people, as you know. I think you're Baldwin guy, right? You're Baldwin, right? Great people here. And
Omar, I gotta wrap it up, but I want to thank you for taking the time. A couple of yinzers. I knew we'd run long. Thanks for it, and we'll talk again soon. It's You Better You Bet on Westwood One Sports.
Welcome back to You Better You Bet on Westwood One Sports.
Could it possibly get any messier? Just wait another day. Something else will come out in the Russini-Vrabel mess. Chris Mack in for Nick Kostos here on You Better You Bet on Westwood One Sports. Nick Friedell, Audacy NBA insider, going to join us in 20 minutes to talk about the Pistons and Thunder going up 2-0 last night in their respective series, and whether it's must-win for not just the Sixers tonight, but also the T-Wolves in hosting the Spurs in their respective Game 3s. Thanks again to Omar Khan, Steelers GM, for jumping on. I know we ran up against the hard break at the end of the hour, but did everyone else notice how Omar somehow knows where I went to high school and shouted out Baldwin High School? Look, Yinzers know other Yinzers somehow. And he's clearly keeping an eye on where your pal Chris Mack has been and where I may be going, which in the next hour is nowhere. Right here, getting you ready on a fabulous Football Friday. Yeah, it's a Football Friday. What are you looking at me like that for? There's other stuff as well. Obviously, a big weekend of baseball. If your home run bet came up short, thanks to this MLB no-sweat home run token, you don't have to worry if your bet didn't clear the fences. Just activate your token when you bet on any player to hit a home run in any MLB game. If that player fails to go yard, you'll get your stake back in bonus bets. Keep the action in scoring position with BetMGM, the king of the big swing. I'll get into the Vrabel Russini stuff in just a second. I just wanted to, since we didn't really have time to a couple minutes ago, put a button on the Omar Khan conversation. The takeaway from that is that the general manager of the team, and look, as much as he may have sounded like he was enjoying our conversation, especially when I got to the part about pizza at the end, it is possible Omar was less than 100% honest about not knowing where Aaron Rodgers is, but he has no reason to not be honest about that. The general manager of the team just told us 10 minutes ago that he doesn't know where Aaron is. Okay. Now, does he mean that in a very specific sense? Like, I don't know if Aaron is somewhere between his house and the airport, or on his way down 279 from his suburban Pittsburgh home towards the Steelers facility? I don't know where Aaron is. He's stuck in traffic probably. Or did he mean that in the more general sense of, I don't know where Aaron is and if he's coming in this weekend? Which is the way the question was asked. I asked him, is Aaron Rodgers coming into town this weekend? And he said, I don't know where Aaron is. So Aaron Rodgers clearly told someone, or someone who knows Aaron told someone, that he was planning on coming into Pittsburgh this weekend. That's been the report from 93.7 The Fan in Pittsburgh, from Ian Rappaport, and yet the GM doesn't know where Aaron is. That's interesting to me. And it's not a knock on Omar necessarily that he doesn't know where Aaron Rodgers is. I mean, does any of us really know where Aaron Rodgers is, physically or metaphorically, at any point in time? No. Only Aaron knows. So somehow we managed to not find any clarification on whether Aaron Rodgers is going to sign with the Steelers this weekend. That's your takeaway. As for a messier situation, as if things could get messier than whether Aaron Rodgers is going to be the Steelers quarterback this year or not, a messier situation, TMZ must have stuff locked away in a vault, or someone is just slowly feeding them information. But we had more come out yesterday. About 22 hours ago, TMZ published a clip showing Mike Vrabel and Diana Russini together on the dock of a private boat rental company back in June of 2021 in Putnam County, Tennessee. For those that are curious, this is right around the time Diana Russini would have been pregnant. Oh, boy. I'm sighing deeply because I just don't know where the line of shame ends. AKA, how deep does the well of shamelessness go? Because here's the part about Vrabel and the Patriots now. The Patriots aren't going to fire Mike Vrabel or ask him to take a bit of time off or anything like that. Their owner once got caught at a rub and tug. That's not going to happen. The season ticket holders just gave him a rousing standing ovation. Yay, Michael! They just went to a Super Bowl. The organization is not getting rid of Mike Vrabel. So the only thing keeping Mike Vrabel from being the Patriots head coach this fall would be if Mike Vrabel decides that he needs to step away, take time to get his personal life in order. Don't know, don't care at this point what the situation is between he and his wife. But let's be honest. Mike Vrabel has kids that are old enough to hear about what's going on with dad. And if I were in that situation where I had basically been leading this secret second life with another woman, and my kids found out about it, whether they found out about it from me first or from PMZ, I don't think I would be able to be stopped from spending as much time with my family in an attempt to reconnect with the people that I had hurt. But again, the well of shamelessness, the Vrabel well of shamelessness is bottomless, my friends. He missed one day draft weekend. One day. And then he was right back to work. Do you think for a second, as I've seen some people theorize, that he's going to decide to walk away? No, he's nose to the grindstone right now. Rookie minicamp, OTAs, mandatory minicamp, all coming up in the next month or so. And a few weeks off. Who knows what stories, videos, photos will come out between now and then. And then he's going to take the month between minicamp and training camp to somehow get his personal life in order. I guess that's the direction you go. Maybe he figures he's effed it up so bad, it can't possibly get any worse. And so at this point, I'll get to him when I get to him. Once again, imagine what your kids must be going through. But the Vrabel well of shamelessness has no bottom. He will be back as the Patriots coach. And the first time and every subsequent time the slightest little thing goes wrong with the Patriots this year, you know what the reasoning and logic people are going to put behind it will be. Vrabel didn't have him ready. Probably in a doghouse with his wife. Probably ex-wife by then, to be honest, Bill. Not focused. Maybe he found another side piece. What's Vrabel doing? Why does Drake May look like this? Why does our defense look like this? They look unprepared. I can't believe this. What happened? He was the best coach in the world last year. We went to a Super Bowl. What happened? Well, I'll tell you what happened. He got caught having a multi-year affair with an NFL insider, and the evidence was slowly, by drips and drabs, death by 1,000 paper cuts, leaked out over the spring and summer. So that every few days or every week or two, Vrabel had another thing pop up, another piece of evidence that he had to sit there and answer to people to. His wife, probably by then ex-wife. His poor kids Anybody personally or professionally connected to him. Like just when you think, if you're Mike Vrabel, that you're starting to wriggle out from underneath it, bam, someone drops another rock on your head. This time, it's TMZ with a video of you and a pregnant Diana Rossini getting on the private boat that you rented. What comes next? What do we get next week? Or the week after that? Or in the middle of training camp? Or week 1 after the Patriots lose a game in disappointing fashion? Whoever has this information is clearly looking for maximum impact, and they are getting it. And every single time something goes wrong for the Patriots this year, it's going to come back around to this. And that's, forget the personal obligations to your family. You have professional obligations to be completely and totally locked in on this football thing. You're defending AFC champions. You got to be locked in from day one through the end of January. And if you're lucky, into early February again. That's hard to do when you're on the road and the crowd is chanting, "You're the father." I mean, that's going to get to you, regardless of who you are and whether you reside inside the Mike Vrabel well of shamelessness or not. So, while there's no way the Patriots dismiss Mike Vrabel, I do have to question, even though he seems to exist in this bottomless well of shamelessness, I do have to question if Mike Vrabel gets to a point where he understands that he's more of a distraction to the team than he is help. More of a hindrance than a help. Now, that would have to go a long way. Again, you would have to find just the tiniest little handful of shame down there at the bottom of Mike Vrabel's well of shamelessness. But it's a possibility. I think it's more likely the guy puts his head down, continues to go to work, tries to block out everything else, and we'll see what happens with the Patriots this fall. But every single time something goes wrong, I can guarantee you that will be what's blamed for it. Doesn't matter. Left guard misses a block on a pass rush assignment. Vrabel probably forgot to tell him. Drake May sails a pass, gets picked off. Vrabel, Rossini. I mean, that's going to be it all year for the Patriots. And look, let's not pretend like they didn't get to the Super Bowl probably a year ahead of schedule. Or 2. And that they weren't due for some sort of regression this year. Which they are. That would have been tolerable, I think, for Patriots fans and just football fans in general. Oh, okay, yeah, I get it. I mean, schedule, everything, they were healthy. Things worked out in 2025. Awesome run they went on going all the way to the Super Bowl. Didn't have to play Knicks in the AFC Championship. Yeah, I mean, it all worked out for them. I guess I can live with the fact that they're taking a step back and they're 9-8 this year, not go to the playoffs or whatever it may be. There's not going to be a single Patriots fan, not a single football fan who looks at it that way now. It's going to be, they got kind of lucky getting to the Super Bowl, and then, well, everything with Vrabel and Rossini blew up. Probably wasn't focused. That's it. That's the story of the 2026 New England Patriots. Coming up next, is it a must-win for both of these teams tonight in the NBA playoffs as we go into Game 3s in the conference semifinals? And do the Lakers have a legitimate beef about the Floplahoma City Thunder? We'll ask Audacy NBA insider Nick Friedell. That's next here on You Better You Bet on Westwood One Sports.
Caruso hits Wallace. Gilgeous-Alexander now against Kennard. His jump shot is good.
This is You Better You Bet, presented by BetMGM on Westwood One Sports.
So, Mike Vrabel's in Tennessee, or at least he was 5 years ago. We now have video evidence of that. Thank you, TMZ. Omar Khan doesn't know where Aaron Rodgers is. What else? Oh, the NBA playoffs. There's actual games being played, baby. And we got to talk about game threes tonight. Must win for both the Sixers and the T-Wolves. We'll get into that, and we'll talk about what happened in game twos in Detroit and Oklahoma City last night as well with our Audacy NBA insider, Nick Friedell, who joins us here on You Better You Bet on Westwood One Sports. Nick, good morning, my friend. How are you?
I'm doing great, buddy. It's good to be with you. And some of these series, they look like, after all the fun we had in the first round, the second round has not lived up to nearly as much hype.
Yeah, I think the formula's changed a little bit, but we can get into that. Nick Friedell, Insider Calls, brought to you by Hyundai and the all-new Hyundai Palisade Hybrid. I want to start with this, though, because J.J. Redick wanted to come out and support his players last night. He didn't like the officiating. Austin Reeves, LeBron James, several guys were very vocal throughout the games with the officials, or throughout the game with the officials, pardon me, and then post-game as well. Is this a case of the Floplahoma City Thunder, or does that have nothing to do with why the Lakers are down 2-0 or lost last night? And can both things be true?
Chris, J.J. Redick's just trying to stand up for his players who are really frustrated against a better team. That was my read on the whole thing. The Thunder flop, Shea's rep in that regard is well documented. He's not the only one. Having said that, this is a coach in the playoffs who's trying to plant seeds of doubt for game three and beyond. And more importantly, he's trying to walk back in that locker room and go, look, guys, I'm trying everything I can to. We just have to hang in there as much as we can. But I read that and I saw the video. I was like, oh, come on. Like, LeBron gets the worst whistle of any player all time. Come on now. This is a guy that is looking for an answer that's just not there. The Lakers aren't good enough. And when I saw that, I just rolled my eyes and went, oh, man, here we go. We're at this point of this series with the two teams that have such a huge talent gap between them.
Yeah, I don't see a way the Lakers get back into that one short of something catastrophic for the Thunder at this rate, and certainly nobody's hoping for that. As for the other series that went 2-0 last night, Pistons now up 2-0 on the Cavs. I said this earlier. It feels like the formula in the first round of the playoffs was big men and defense. And it feels like the formula in the second round has been more score off turnovers or don't allow the opponent to do so and hit your threes. Because when you look, every single game through the first two games of the second round, other than the Pistons beating the Cavs last night, the team that turned the ball over more lost. Now, the Pistons got away with that last night because they only allowed the Cavs to score 10 points off of those turnovers. So in that series specifically, I come back to, can they count on James Harden to continue to handle the ball as much as he does, to distribute it the way they need him to, but yet also be more responsible with it? Because in the 4 games that the Cavs have won so far in the playoffs, Nick, I think Harden's only turned it over on average 4 times in each game.
Chris, if the question is, can you count on James Harden in the playoffs? The answer is no.
I set you up for that one.
Yeah, you couldn't have thrown me a bigger softball as far as what I have seen through the years. I actually really agree with you. The first point, though, in that the second round looks different than the first round. And I know that's something that you've hit on. But when you're watching these games, that's why the deeper teams are really starting to show who they are. And Detroit, by all rights, shouldn't be here in this moment, because if Orlando doesn't have an all-time meltdown, that series is over. To their credit, they hung in, and they're rolling now. But to the point about James Harden, when Kobe Altman made that deal, the Cavs GM, I sat there and was like, wait a minute, what? James Harden is the missing piece for a Cavs team that can't find its way in the playoffs? There's just no way. When you're this far down the line in a career, albeit a Hall of Fame career, everybody knows what it is. And with Harden, you cannot count on him to be different than what we've seen to this point. There are moments and times where James Harden is going to have 30, sometimes 40, maybe not at this age, but you're still going to watch and go, whoa, he's really pouring it in. And there are other times he not only, Chris, is the difference now, he would just kind of disappear. Now, defensively, I mean, they're just going at him all the time. So this is a weird series given the way, especially that Detroit series ended against the Magic, and Cleveland never should have gone to 7 against that version of the Raptors. But it looks very clear, at least through these first couple games, how much better Detroit appears than this version of the Cavs.
Couple of must wins, I think, tonight in Game 3s. Nick Friedell, Audacy NBA Insider, with us here on You Better You Bet. Chris Mack in for Nick Kostos on Westwood One Sports. Insider calls brought to you by Hyundai and the all-new Hyundai Palisade Hybrid. Learn how it makes every day epic at HyundaiUSA.com. Do you really think it's – I think it's must win for the T-Wolves, and I'll start there because we know it's must win for the Sixers. I think it's must win for the T-Wolves, Nick, because they just looked so – uninterested, for lack of a better way to put it, in Game 2. They look like a team that believed since they won Game 1, they had a right to just be handed Game 2. I don't know if it's an exhale from winning Game 1, if it's an exhale from having Edwards back, or what it is, but I have to believe that in order to make this a series against the Spurs, they've got to bounce back in a major way, and they have an opportunity to do it tonight at home.
I agree completely. If you're Minnesota and you got Game 1, it felt like, all right, well, let's just get on the plane. Like, we're good here. Let's just go back home. Chris, what scares me, though, for Minnesota is when you watch Ant Edwards, he's just, because of the injuries, he's just not at that same level. And what I would want to see, especially early in this game, is how is he looking and how does he feel? Because if he's not at that same Ant Edwards level, I don't care if they're playing at home. They don't have enough firepower to get to where they want to go without him in that role. So I'm with you. I think this is really important for them because San Antonio, after falling flat in Game 1, just rolled in Game 2. They have Wemby. They have a bunch of young guys who are finding their footing more as each game goes by. And if they go win Game 3 in Minnesota, you know they're going to try to deliver that knockout punch in Game 4. So it makes a ton of sense. I still think San Antonio comes through in this series. But if Ant Edwards comes in and gets everybody else going in that building early, and then here comes what Gobert can give you, maybe Minnesota can keep pushing and make this a more competitive series than I think.
We know it's must win, like I said, for the Sixers tonight. We don't know what Knicks team they'll be facing and who they'll be facing them with. Embiid still questionable. OG Anunoby, though, and Josh Hart on the other side, questionable. My contention earlier, Nick, I don't know what you think of this, is I would do everything I can, assuming he can play and be effective, to keep OG in the lineup tonight and see if that gets us up 3-0. And then if we want OG Anunoby to get some rest, we get it on the backside of the series rather than in the middle of the series. Not to say that you're conceding a game by allowing OG Anunoby to get healthy, but you know, I'd much rather be up 3-0 and get the rest on the backside of the series than all of a sudden it would feel like lose some of that momentum of winning 5 in a row and in such dominant fashion. Just how important is Anunoby to what the Knicks are doing?
Chris, he's been their most consistent guy throughout this little stretch that you mentioned. I mean, Jalen Brunson gets the headlines. He's the star. He's the baddest dude going almost in the entirety of the playoffs at this point. But Anunoby is helping them in so many different ways. And we've seen the scoring at times, but he's one of those guys that you need in order to keep winning. I see the point about trying to keep him out there tonight if he's ready to roll. What I would tell you is if you're dealing with what he's dealing with and those hamstring injuries and all that, that is something to be very cautious about, because if he makes the wrong move and he's not feeling pretty solid moving forward, then you're really going to screw yourself up for the next couple weeks. So we'll see who's out there. The fact that Philly may not have Embiid again. I mean, I came into this series thinking Philly could absolutely win, and they had an advantage matchup-wise. And then Embiid can hardly move in game one, doesn't play in game two, and now we're sitting here a few hours before game three like, is he going to be out there? I mean, this is why nobody ever really believes in Philly. This is the case study, and hey, they got all these pieces. Yeah, but you never know who's going to be there. So I think this is 100% the game for them. If they don't get this one, you can just you can fold out the rest of this series. That is a wrap, and we'll be seeing the Knicks in the Eastern Conference Finals.
Yeah, it's got to just be incredibly frustrating for a Sixers fan to get teased with those few games of Embiid too, and see what's possible when Embiid, Maxey, and George are all on and Edgecombe's contributing and everything's going right. And then all of a sudden Embiid's out and it feels like the house of cards completely tumbles again.
Hey, Chris, what I would say to the Sixers in general is this is why you have to move on. I don't care what it takes, and the value is never going to be what you want it to be in any kind of deal. But to sit there and keep going through this is not sustainable. It hasn't been. I mean, even in that year when he won the MVP, it just looked like he was completely running out of gas when you needed him the most. The longer you kind of stay in this place, the longer that you're just like, I don't think this is ever going to happen. So if Embiid really can't get back on the floor, or if he does, let's say tonight, and he's just not moving around really well and he's not making an impact, I think there's a much bigger conversation to be had for that Philly front office going into the summer, because there's absolutely nothing that would lead you to believe that Embiid can be the guy you need him to be consistently in the playoffs night to night. He was awesome in those moments in Boston. He's a huge reason, the reason they won in Game 7. But I would not trust at all that he can be the focus of what you need him to be to actually think that you can compete for a title anymore.
Speaking of big men who maybe should move on from their teams in the Eastern Conference, the Giannis Antetokounmpo thing is already being kicked up. We've got the draft lottery this weekend as well. Not to roll too much up into one big ball of wax, but you've also got Jaylen Brown making some comments early this week about how it was one of the best seasons of his life because he got to be the man. I'm paraphrasing, but is there – look, you run it through the trade simulator online, and it tells you there's no way to make it happen because of the apron and the cap and all that. Does it make any sense at all to consider a Jaylen Brown for Giannis Antetokounmpo at the heart of a deal? And I guess on the back end of that, how does the lottery affect all of what we may see happen in this offseason?
Chris, what I would say about the Boston-Milwaukee part, that would be really, really surprising. I mean, it's fun for us to talk about, and certainly in league circles and for fans, everybody's looking around going, would it work? Is this something that could be possible? I think for all the reasons you laid out, on top of the fact that I think you can chalk up what Jaylen Brown's saying, at least in part, to frustration. I mean, they lost in the way in which they lost, but those were some eye-raising, like, what the hell is he talking about? Why? Yeah. I don't think it's completely out of the realm. I would be very surprised. To the point about the lottery and how everything else shakes out, that is huge. And that is, however, the ping pong balls and the numbers shake out on Sunday, that will determine a hell of a lot of what we see over the next couple months. And I'll give you an example because it's a question that I've gotten asked repeatedly here in the last few days. What happens if a team like the Warriors bounces all the way up to 1 or 2 or gets in that top 4? Do they then take that pick and say, all right, this is going to be another guy that we believe we can pair with Steph moving forward for another couple years? Or do they take the 3rd pick and go, hey, Giannis, Milwaukee, what's up? That's a guy that they have been having conversations about forever, seemingly. And does it make more of a sweetener to make that kind of deal happen if you get the lottery luck you need? So those are all questions that will be answered here in Chicago in the next few days. But the lottery standings and where everybody lands are just gigantic, not only because of the talent involved throughout that draft, but because of all the different trade ramifications and possibilities that surround it, with Giannis at the top of that list.
Audacy NBA insider Nick Friedell here on You Better You Bet on Westwood One Sports. Insider calls brought to you by Hyundai and the all-new Hyundai Palisade Hybrid. Thanks again for your time this morning, Nick. We'll catch up again soon, my man. Enjoy the playoffs.
Always, buddy. Talk to you.
Absolutely. Really interesting how, I think this is a tendency of NBA fans, especially, where we take 2 and we take another 2 and we try to add them up into 5. Like, ooh, Giannis. Celtics need a big man. Jaylen Brown, maybe not totally happy. Can we make it happen? Like I said, you can run it through any trade simulator you find online. It's going to be like flashing red lights and your computer starts to smoke and it goes, can't happen, sorry. Now, are there exceptions and allowances that maybe allow that to happen? Sure. But that seems like a bit of an uphill climb. And I don't think the Celtics want to make that big of a move. As for how the lottery this weekend affects what happens with Giannis, you just heard Nick lay it out there. The Warriors are a big part of this too. But then, what do the Warriors look like if it's a Golden State Warriors team without Steve Kerr? If he's not back, does that cause that house of cards to tumble? I am very curious to see if Joel Embiid is back tonight. Is that enough? Can you get Embiid that you got in games 6 and 7 in the first round? 5, 6, and 7, really. If that Embiid comes back, okay. That's a Sixers win, especially if Anunoby's out and Hart. That's a Sixers win, and we got a series. But if there's no Embiid, or Embiid looks less than 100%, doesn't look like that guy that he looked at the end of the Celtics series, this thing's over. It's done. Coming up, we laughed, we cried, we learned some things. Our 3 stars of the day, our 3 favorite moments of the show. Next, right here on You Better You Bet on Westwood One Sports.
This is You Better You Bet, presented by BetMGM on Westwood One Sports.
We've had a time today, friends. It's been a blast. Chris Mack filling in for Nick Kostos on Westwood One Sports. It is You Better You Bet, presented by BetMGM. And whether it's the playoffs, NBA style, Stanley Cup playoff style, whether it's, I don't know, baseball, whatever it is, it's all waiting for you inside the BetMGM app. In fact, if you've had a home run bet come up short, thanks to an MLB no sweat home run token inside your BetMGM app, you won't have to worry again if that bet doesn't clear the fences. Just activate your token when you bet on any player to hit a home run in any MLB game. And if that player fails to go yard, you'll get your stake back in bonus bets. Keep the action in scoring position with BetMGM, the king of the big swing. I don't have any baseball bets or specific home run bets, but I will say I am on the T-Wolves plus the 4.5. Maybe I'm proven wrong, but I'm going to pay to see that the Spurs can roll Minnesota for a second game in a row, that the Timberwolves are going to look as lifeless and listless for a second game in a row as they did in game 2. And I'm going to bet that, I'm not saying they win, but I think we're going to get a much better game in game 2. I think we get a classic, in fact, between the Spurs and the T-Wolves tonight, and that it goes right down to the wire. And maybe Minnesota even steals game 3 at home. And that would set us on a path towards, I think, a 7-game epic. A 7-game episodic legend that just grows game by game. The other side of the coin, which I'm not saying is impossible, is that the Timberwolves lay another egg tonight, the Spurs go up 2-1, and it's all downhill from here and over in 5. But I don't think that's the case. Timberwolves getting 4.5 at BetMGM today. All right, every time I fill in, we like to wrap up the show by giving you the 3 biggest highlights of the day, the 3 favorite moments of today's show, and we had a lot of them today, so let's get to it. Our 3 stars of the day.
3.
It's a long way to the season, and unless you see the off-field stuff affecting his ability to coach, which I just can't imagine is going to be the case when we get to September or even August.
Judy Battista of NFL Network, one of the insider legends, talking about Mike Vrabel there and the possibility of Vrabel not being Patriots head coach this year because of all of the mess that's gone on over the last few weeks. I contend that the Mike Vrabel well of shamelessness has no bottom, and that if he hasn't already decided to detach himself from the team for a while and go focus on his family, specifically his kids, then it won't happen. It won't. I don't think it will. The guy took 1 day off. Now, maybe the constant drip of stories coming out that gets to him day after day, week after week, eventually causes him to take that step back. But let's not pretend like the Patriots are going to do anything about this. Are you kidding me? We all know that if anybody's got to massage things in the public eye, Bob Kraft knows how to do it. Next.
2.
Chris, he's been their most consistent guy throughout this little stretch that you mentioned. I mean, Jalen Brunson gets the headlines. He's the star. He's the baddest dude going almost in the entirety of the playoffs at this point. But Anunoby is helping them in so many different ways.
Nick Friedell, our Audacy NBA insider, just a few moments ago, talking about OG Anunoby, how he's helped the Knicks go on this 5-game winning streak, and how much it may mean to the Knicks if they don't have him tonight and attempt to turn that into a 6-game winning streak in Philly and a 3-0 series lead against the Sixers. Anunoby is listed as questionable, as is Josh Hart, as is Joel Embiid on the Philly side. So we'll see who actually ends up on the floor tonight. If I were the Knicks, if Anunoby is anywhere close to able to play and be effective, he's out there. And I go up 3-0 in the series, and I let him rest on the back end of the series after we close it out. That's just me, though. And I'm not OG Anunoby's hamstrings. So, our number one star of the day?
One.
Yeah, I don't know where specifically Aaron is. I can tell you that Aaron and I and Coach and Aaron and Aaron's representative, we've had some good conversations.
Come again? Steelers general manager Omar Khan about an hour ago, when I asked him if Aaron Rodgers was going to be arriving in Pittsburgh this weekend and re-upping with the Steelers for one more year, I don't know where specifically Aaron is. Now, does that mean Omar, like I said earlier, is just obfuscating a little bit? That's a big word. It means hiding. He's just hiding a little bit and he knows Aaron is in the air somewhere and could be in Pittsburgh soon, but I don't know specifically where he is. Or does that mean that Omar Khan, general manager of the Pittsburgh Steelers, doesn't know if Aaron Rodgers is still on a Costa Rican beach somewhere licking the back of a hallucinogenic frog? All up to interpretation, kids. All up to interpretation. But thanks to Omar for coming on the show. And I wish we'd had more time to talk about Pittsburgh pizza, because clearly he is an aficionado and he was ready to roll about that, but we just ran out of time because I wouldn't stop asking him about Aaron Rodgers. I think it's fair on a day like today when people are reporting 24 hours ago that Aaron was supposed to be coming into town to re-up with the Steelers. But thanks again to Omar for making the time as the Steelers rookie minicamp is getting underway today on the south side of Pittsburgh. Thanks again to Nick Friedell. Love catching up on a Friedell Friday with our Audacy NBA insider. Thanks again to Judy Battista, one of the legends, for talking at great length, not just about the Mike Vrabel situation, but also this ratification of a new CBA for the officials that is currently being voted on. Assuming the officials approve it, they're not going to become full-time employees yet. Apparently, they're not too interested in that being a thing either. But they're going to be spending a lot more time doing NFL officiating things in the offseason. Also, thanks obviously to Mike Brown, Dan Turner, Kenny Henderson, Bill Zimmerman, all behind the scenes making everything work today. Here's to you having just an absolutely awesome, fantastic weekend. Here's to you, if you're looking for your quarterback, finding him wherever he may be. Even if that's on an ayahuasca trip somewhere in Central America, here's to you, continuing to keep it locked in throughout the playoffs, both the NBA playoffs and the Stanley Cup playoffs, right here on Westwood One Sports. I am Chris Mack, in for Nick Kostos today. I'll be back in for him again next Friday. There's no problem with Nick taking a long weekend, by the way. The man works his rear end off during the football season, so taking a few Fridays here and there, it's going to be all right. Until then, like I said, enjoy your weekend, enjoy the playoffs, and enjoy your latest edition of Where's Rodgers. I got a kid's book about that. I'm Chris Mack. Black and Abdallah up next right here on Westwood One Sports.